And we're back. It's the Prep Pastors Podcast. I'm here with my dear friend, the real Phil, up in the great land, Alaska. And I'm coming to you from the Ozarks. I'm the real Kirk. Welcome. Phil, how are you today?
Yeah. Hey, I haven't shot anybody today or even this week.
I can't say that I haven't shot anything this week, but I haven't shot anybody this week.
Ooh.
I did take two very large pigs to the butcher, and I did let that be just a little bit of a drill to do two back-to-back headshots before the other could freak out and move, and dropped them both in one shot like a hot sack of crap. And so,
I feel like if you're doing something like that, you sort of have an obligation to do like a Boondock Saints deal.
oh, that would be cool. But I would probably miss. Like I would probably, the man who chases two rabbits misses them both, right? So I don't always agree with Confucius, but I think that one's probably pretty solid. But no. So
I
we got
learned
two
everything
pigs
I
off
know
to the
from
butcher.
John Wick and Boondock Saints. So
Have you seen four yet? Have you seen the new?
no. I don't go to theaters, so I don't
See,
even know. In fact, this is there going to be a fifth? Like
I don't know.
I thought it was going to be three and done, and then it was a fourth. So I'm kind of holding out and waiting because I just want to buy the box set.
Well, I do go to theaters. I like going to the theater a lot. I just, I tactically want to sit where I want to sit, and of course, I'm always, stay strapped to get clapped kind of situation, right? But
Yeah, well, of course. But I have a 75-inch large high definition, good 4K television from Sony
sure, sure,
and a
sure.
really good surround sound.
Well, that's the way to live. I totally love that.
My
But
local theaters are not as nice
oh
as
no,
mine.
your theaters have got to be terrible. I've seen your theaters. They're like large shoe boxes.
Yeah, and they're gross. Like please don't turn the lights on. I'll
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
take. So yeah, no, so I don't go. Plus then I can drink beer. So yeah, but there are some theaters like in Anchorage that I really like and I used to enjoy going. There's a theater there called the Beartooth Theater, and it is a part of the same company that makes Moose's Tooth Pizza, which is really famous, and I know that you know what that is. Um,
You took me to Moose Tooth Pizza, man.
it's kind of like the tourist thing that you do.
Yeah.
So imagine that food and that brewery beer because they make their own beer uh, in a movie theater and no children allowed. Like that used to really be our jam. That was a very popular, fun thing to do. Um, and I have a friend. There was a guy when we were serving time in Oregon. I had a customer whose airplane I used to annual,
Hmm.
and he was from Anchorage, Alaska, and of course, so he reproduced that in Salem. And
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to. So, we'll throw him a shout out. I don't know if he wants one, but Northern Lights Theater in South Salem, and he was doing the same thing, kind of not quite as well, but small operation. And he actually opened a theater, I think, in Napa or Caldwell, Idaho, too.
Hmm.
So anyway, good guy, really good guy. And he was a good
Nice.
customer for me and good believing. He's a believer. So yeah, if you live in one
That's
of those
great.
places, you should frequent.
I have a dear friend in that Nampa Caldwell area. I'll have to have him take a look. We have
I don't
one
know if that was Northern
if I
Lights
drive quite
too,
a
but
ways.
I'm sure you can find it. Yeah. So you have
If
to
I
go quite a
drive
way. Well, you have to go quite a ways just to find like, a toilet. Um,
if I drive quite a ways, there's a really great theater in Springfield, Missouri called the Alamo, and they've got that food and beverage kind of service.
I like that.
You get your menu. You got to get there early, so you get your menu, and then right about the time the coming attractions are over, they set your food. You got a
That's a great
table,
thing.
and
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Great
it's
business.
awesome.
If I was to start a business around here, I probably would do something similar. It's definitely
Yeah,
a
it'd be cool.
win. Great idea. But uh, I'd like to get away from, if you're doing anything that is dependent on disposable income or perceived as
Yeah,
like a luxury
yeah.
thing, now's not a good time to start that business.
No, no, now is not a time to start that business. Yeah, yeah, please. Yeah, you want to maybe
Oh,
start a
no.
gun store.
Well, gun store.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I,
maybe start a
I'm
gun store. start a
Similar.
farm, start an ammo
Um,
company. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, I started to tell you off pregame before my computer crashed because
yeah,
MSI is a terrible company. Um, I was listening to our favorite Mr. Boyd Craven's latest ranch, and I'm like halfway or three-quarters of the way through.
farm,
Anyway,
farm,
I know you've already
farm.
listened to it. The farm.
Okay.
That's right. The ranch
Yeah.
was a different one. So
Hmm.
behind the curve, the farm.
Book four.
Um, we're in book 4. I was in the middle of another series, actually 2 series that I finished up when it came out. So I, of course, pre-ordered it as soon as it was available.
Yeah.
But I just now finally am listening to it. And let's see, what is it? Chapter 13. So I think that's about halfway through. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a point in there. It was I was in the shower and about lost it. It was excellent. I have to back up and probably listen to it again with the wife. I want her to hear it. But he does like um, somebody drops a message and basically puts out like a call to arms
Yeah.
to all ATF. And do you
Oh,
remember that part?
oh, oh, yeah. I've got it. Like I may just like there may be
I've
the
got a
day that
friend.
I feel yeah, the day that I
I,
filmed my last video, it will probably be me just reading that message. Yes.
I was
I
actually
knew.
thinking the same thing and making like a swan song video
Yeah.
and reading that and
Yeah.
setting it up now that I've been dabbling in Tails and Torrent and all the other off grid type stuff. I totally may set an auto drop. Except I'd like to mix a good video, like make a good. I may start working on it. I mean, there are an endless amount of clips of
Oh yeah.
federal authorities abusing their power against the Constitution and against the people. I made a statement on
In
Daily
fact, I
Wire.
have a in fact
Blew
I
up.
have a story
Yeah.
that jumps us to a news story. But before we get too deep in the weeds today, I have a handful of prayer requests before we get to
Yeah.
current
Why
events and we
don't
move
you
forward.
kind of do some admin office cleanup here and get us on task? Welcome to the show, by the way.
Yeah, I love it. Well, so I got three. I'm sort of surrounded by some crazy. I'm not gonna give big stories.
Well,
We don't have time for that. Um,
and I don't want to diminish this by saying it the way I say it. We're knocking it out first because they're the priority.
prayer is always the priority, guys, and that's just the reality of it.
The most
Um,
important in the stuff is
so
fluff.
one of my dearest friends from 30 plus years ago and on, um, is really battling a horrific, uh,
Tremendous cancer.
fast acting and very aggressive leukemia. His name
Yeah.
is Terry. If you would be praying for him, I would greatly appreciate it. My mother is currently on the table in open heart surgery right now as we speak. I'm hoping to get a text any minute that they're closing her up because they said it would be 4 to 6 hours, and I think we're pushing like 7.5 right now. So it's like, you know, and then I asked for prayer about a year ago. People prayed, God moved, awesome things happened for baby Xander out in Oregon. He was born premature with a heart problem. They did a very touch and go surgery to fix his heart problem,
Yeah.
and and he won. They've had a wonderful year with their son, and well, he had emergency surgery again just like 3 days ago. Spent 2 days on ECMO, which is a heart lung bypass machine, um, which he really is almost impossible to be on that machine twice in a year, or your risk of stroke goes through the ceiling. And a very confident doctor walked in and said, "Most people won't do this surgery. I do this surgery. Sign the paper," and saved Xander's life. But they have a very long road ahead, and right now, I think they're most afraid that essentially their son will never have a normal life, and that he will be heavily medicated and he will be severely limited because of the pressures in his heart and the way his little heart is working. But here's the great news: is we serve a healing, miracle working Jesus, and
Who
and and
loves
he
children?
is he loves kids, and he loves everybody. So we are really in prayer for my mom, Terry, and of course, baby Xander. And then subsequently, I also found out that another dear friend of mine who is a Air Force combat veteran. His son is in the pediatric ICU there in Portland as well. Three doors down from baby Xander. His son has Down syndrome and has had some respiratory problems and has got some big stuff too. And his name's Toby. So I only meant to do three. Where's my fingers at? Three, but there's four. So anyway, you guys could be praying. That would be great. Touch that, and hopefully I'll have tremendous updates for all of them next week. I opted to not go to Florida for my mom's surgery. Because I kind of hate travel right now, but that's not really the A reason. But my friend Terry, he and his wife have lost both streams of income. So I am right now trying to finish a remodel on a house so that they can have a rental up and running so that they can have some income. So they had gutted bathrooms and a gutted kitchen and, a bunch of other things. And so I'm kind of trying to get all of it up and going so that we can vet and approve a great renter who will take care of the property, and they can at least have $400 or $500 a month in income to put into their pockets. And that is right now what I'm trying to accomplish. So my sister's with my mom. She's being well taken care of, and I'm trying to serve my friends up here. So please, please, please be praying for those things. There we go.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Changing gears, something that addressing what Phil just mentioned. I don't know if you saw the footage. There was a gun store in, I believe it was on like either the Virginia, Maryland area, very leftist controlled area of the country, obviously. And they somehow had Marjorie Taylor Greene on speed dial because they were in the process of being um, the
Rated or
ATF. The
V.
ATF says they were coming for a random inspection, except they
Yeah.
showed up for a random inspection with 20 agents. The shop owner says they were about to be raided, but Marjorie Taylor Greene and I think three other members of
Just went
Congress
there.
showed up. They drove straight there, and
Good.
all but one of the ATF agents left. They would not interact with them. They said we're under orders to not interact with the press, and they're like, we're not the press. We're actually elected officials that you have to answer to, and
Right.
basically stood in the
Yeah. If
gap
you
for
won't
this
do
gun
it in
store.
front of them, then why would you do it at all? Again, I've said it repeatedly, and I will continue to preach it. There is no one left of good moral character. Every
No,
one of them is an enemy of our citizenry, and they are actively committing terrorist actions against our country. They are the enemy, and they should be treated as such. Act accordingly. Be careful.
act
Do
accordingly.
not trust them. Act accordingly. Protect your dog, protect your wife, protect your person, protect your business,
Hmm.
because they mean to do you harm, and they are looking for excuses
Yep,
to
that's
do
right.
you terrible harm.
And the primary reason why, Phil, you and I have talked on multiple occasions that I've kind of dreamt of getting my FFL and doing some things
Yeah,
like that,
love to own
and
a
and
gun store.
essentially what you forfeit your right to privacy, search and seizure. You sign a contract with the federal government that they can walk in, take your records, take your inventory whenever they want, as
Yeah.
soon as you put your name on the books as being an FFL. So I just decided I just can't do it. Like I cannot go down that road.
Which is not to say, and I'm not admitting, and nor is there anything to admit. Neither one of us are selling or we're not doing it without a license. That's not
Right,
what we're. We gave up on our dream, our American dream, one of them,
right, right.
because we know that it is a completely corrupt and broken, illegal industry now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
100%.
don't want to take part in it. And so I don't own anything illegal. We don't do anything illegal. I don't do bad things with firearms. I don't own anything in a non-legal way. I have
Right.
jumped through, and so have you, done the hoops and done what has been asked.
Yes.
Um, if there's any sort of like, like the pistol brace is a good example. Like, I'm pretty sure I own one. I don't have any AR pistols right now. Um,
Yeah, I have a
uh,
couple of pistol braces, but none of them are attached to guns right now. In fact, they're
I
buried so
don't have
deep in
any.
the.
I don't even know where mine are. If
Yeah,
I have them, I don't know if
I
I
might
even
have
still
I
have.
might have given one away a while back.
Exactly. I give away. They are literally throwaway gun parts. I mean, 20 to 40. I don't even know. I know I don't have anything of high value when it comes, if there were even such a thing. So, but all that to say, rolling backwards, the ATF does this pen stroke thing where they declare something to be illegal, and then they act like it is under threat of death to you.
Yeah,
Um, and just because it's unconstitutional and not right and not backed by law doesn't mean they don't do it. Um, they're in the wrong, but they will ruin your life anyway. So for
100%.
all that, I would say they're a bunch of scumbags and more. There's so many more. Let's not even talking about burning women and children alive or shooting mothers while they're holding their babies. All those things that they have
Yeah,
done and do repeatedly, and there was no accountability for. Still, um, we're just not going to play that game. So
yeah.
if you really want to come and look for something, like, good luck. I'm not letting them in the door.
Well,
Not
we don't have to unless they've got some kind of warrant. And I'm
no.
watching a lot of people putting footage,
Show me a
you know.
legal warrant. Like, go do your illegal FISA thing and let's have it out.
Hmm.
I guess
Well,
I'll just be patient.
I'm loving all of the Ring doorbell footage that's been being posted of people going, "Where's your warrant?" Well, you
Oh,
just need
yeah.
to show us these two items that you bought,
No,
that you have them on the
no.
premises that you bought them. I'm not in any legal obligation to store what I bought on my property. Like, I can store it wherever I want. Maybe I cached it in the woods. Like, I don't have to
You're
store it. I don't.
concerned about me committing a crime. I'm telling you, have committed no crimes. I did
I've
not
committed
move
no
any small
crimes.
purchases. So there you go.
Yeah. So basically, but the ATF's like, well, now you're gonna be on our list now. It's like, well, clearly I'm already on your list, or you wouldn't be knocking on my door, you
Literally already on.
jackwagon.
Yeah, exactly. So
So
they do have a lot of local support. They very seldom go out without local law enforcement. They have. I mean, there is, and they've gotten their butts handed to them.
oh
But
yeah,
but the majority of the time, they find a sympathetic friend, because officers are friends with other officers. It's very
right,
few officers you'll find that don't have some federal officer friends, which is why it really bothers them when we say things like "fuck the feds," and there is nobody left with any integrity, and they're all pieces of shit. It bothers them because some of them are, their friends.
yep,
And again, I don't like to find out that my friend is a piece of shit either.
right,
Um, it breaks your heart to find out that they have no morals and are totally corrupt. It really sucks, but that's the reality. So, um, all that to say, the world is a crazy place, and our country is definitely not a safe space anymore. And I don't know. I mean, I just, as we were rolling into this, I got the alert on my phone about all these White House press briefings. Apparently today, so we're recording this live. We are live in our studios. Uh, you're watching this after the fact,
right,
but recording it live, and it is what's today? Today's Thursday, the 30th. So apparently,
correct.
there's some sort of transgender something
Day of
something,
vengeance. Yep,
and the White House has been releasing things today, talking about how transgender people are the soul of our nation, and talk about, like, are they saying that near a lightning rod? Because I wouldn't want
right,
to be making statements like that. I'd be worried about getting zapped from heaven, or zapped from somewhere. One, it's not true. Two, we do not hold on to, declare, or agree with a single thing coming out of that office or that White House,
correct,
or pretty much all of DC at this point.
correct.
Um, no, please don't strike us down for that. But I was, is it Patriot Nurse? Do you follow her? She's kind of a prepper, but she's a
Yeah,
nurse.
yeah,
She had a really good statement earlier this week, and talking about just the wrath that is coming for our nation. with the
Yep.
things we are saying and doing. And the whole time I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? That's literally one of the biggest reasons why I live in Alaska. Like, no, I want to separate myself by thousands of miles from all of that as much as
Yes.
possible. Um,
Yes.
but, another pastor that I listen to, he's on, gosh, I'm really suck at references. So he's a Baptist pastor in Australia, except he's not. He's Japanese, I think. Japanese doctor, and he preaches out of California a bunch. Like, I got to hunt this guy down. I've almost sent you the links a bunch of times. I was watching
Oh,
some of his
I wish you would have.
end time stuff. He does a great pre-trib rapture video,
Okay.
and he may have changed my mind. So as a prepper, I prep with the idea of post-trib or mid-trib rapture.
Right.
I've never really followed biblically, mostly because I don't care.
Right.
There is a better argument I've always believed for pre-trib rapture. Um, After listening to his support, one, I would have to, before I say, well, that's 100% true, right? I would have to actually go read the context of references and all that. But he does about an hour and a
Right.
half of walking through very quickly in an hour and a half. And he made a really good case. So I got to dive into that more. Again, as a prepper, it really doesn't matter because once you're gone, who cares?
Sure.
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Right.
Um, my doctrine of theology coming out of the Foursquare denomination is one of those, soon coming king,
F
and
word.
it's not to know. So who even cares? How
Yeah.
much does it even matter? And which
I've often said that I'm a pan tribber. Like
all
like it's all gonna pan
pastors
out.
will get
It's all
approached by people and grilled on this. And I, no matter what my beliefs are, ask them all, what difference does it make? Why does it matter? In your faith and how you live your day to day, tell me why it matters, and then you can go from there because there's other biblical reasons to either prep for or do one thing or not do another. Um, you should not be making your day-to-day living decisions based on whether we're going to be raptured before the tribulation or after. I can't think of a
okay.
single thing that would matter for that, right?
Okay.
Now there are people who say, "Are you getting a bad text?"
I got a tough text, but it's okay.
Uh, break,
Thank you for asking.
break.
The surgery break. This surgery took way longer than they thought for my mom.
Okay.
The thickening of her hokum, the portion of her heart, was very severe. But when they went to thin the wall of her heart, they actually punched through to the other side, and the patch was not taking and was not healing. But the heart is beating strong now. The machine is helping her pace. She didn't get a pacemaker, but that could be something she gets. He couldn't say he couldn't say when because he needs to see her heart beating and pacing after meds on its own. He apologized for making the hole more than once, and she's going to be in ICU for 2 to 3 days. So not a
Okay.
great text, but
It's not.
certainly not a bad text
She's
either.
alive.
So she is
She's
good.
alive, and there are some good things. A strong beating heart is a big thing when it's, I, muscles and organs can just only take so much punishment, and especially the older you are. And so
That's right.
to still be going strong and to believe that's a positive thing.
Yeah,
If he didn't have confidence, he wouldn't have fixed the holes.
that's right. That's exactly right.
So
So sorry for the interruption, but thank you for noticing and sensitivity. I appreciate that. I wasn't going to
no, that's
interrupt
right.
your thought.
So partial answer, it's an answer. It's a
We're doing
start.
the
So
one and a
I say
half thumbs up.
agree.
One and a half thumbs up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
But anyways,
back to your
there's no
thought.
reason. Well, there's no reason to return to the rant, but
Yeah.
all that to say, throughout history, um, there is a lot of written history of God's wrath righteously being poured out on the wicked, and God using people to fix evil problems.
Sure.
Um,
Well, and but the saddest part about that, I'm going through um, the Elijah study, listening to Pastor Driscoll right now. And I know
Yep.
lots of you feel a certain way about Driscoll. One of the other,
I
I
like
don't always.
Driscoll.
I like him. I'm not an
He's a man.
anti-Driscoll guy. He's made mistakes. He's doing better. Anyway, all that being said, you know, and probably partly why I've never landed pre-trib, is because that Israel has been allowed to suffer greatly because of their sin,
Already.
and already,
That's one of
and
the
so
largest
and
arguments for pre-trib is that the tribulation is for the atonement and right of the Jewish
Israel,
nation
right?
of Israel because they missed the boat.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's the time of Jacob's trouble and all of that stuff. Is
yeah,
what
yeah,
I believe Ezekiel 38, 39, something like that would talk about. But anyway, I say all of that because I think that God's people have been allowed to suffer during times of purification. They were not immune to all of the plagues that fell upon Egypt. They have certainly not been immune to the suffering as they've been cast into exile on multiple occasions for falling far from God. I think
right.
America is far from God. There's a remnant here that still love and care for and follow his teaching. But I think ultimately America as a whole, she's a whore, and she has whored herself out on multiple occasions, and she is no longer seeking after the heart of God as a nation. If especially when you start listening to the nation's leader, whether
Right.
you believe he's a legitimate leader or
Openly
not.
embrace and make statements that our nation, uh, our nation's character and backbone is dependent on transgender. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not. So
Makes
I
me
just say that and it was funny because I've been talking to a buddy of mine, Jonathan Ellis. He's a pastor teacher in Grand Junction, Colorado, and he's young. He's a young leader. He's much younger than us, and so I've been a mentor
uh,
of his for a lot of years. And now I
uh,
really see him more as a peer than I am a mentor to him. He's really grown to a place. We've been listening to some
you stayed in
common.
ministry over the last 3 years. You've either grown or fallen away. He's been
Exactly,
trying.
and he has. He's a mature, wonderful leader, and stepping into an even deeper role of ministry, and that's really exciting. And so he does a lot of senior teaching. But I was actually going to kick around the idea of doing a panel discussion about end times theology,
You should.
sometime where we all just kind of gather around, and just have basically the conversation we're having right now. But I'd
Yeah.
like to include him. He's done some pretty in-depth studying, and what's really interesting about it. I would you don't really care. I don't really care, and Jonathan has certainly never really cared. But in the recent weeks,
Hmm.
I have been drawn more and more to these passages, and I feel, as I listen to Driscoll's pastor, Dr. Evans, whether I listen to um, uh, uh, other folks, I'm not picking up the Left Behind series or any garbage like that. I'm just.
Well, although that just a new one just came out, and I bought it to support him because it's what's his name, Sorbo, Kevin Sorbo. I
Oh
should get
yeah,
that right. And
Kevin
he's a
Sorbo.
good man. Yeah, Kevin
Hercules,
Sorbo.
Hercules,
Hercules.
Hercules,
Exactly. No, he's
Hercules.
a good man. He's very active on Twitter. He's very active and interactive with his Twitter followers
Yeah,
too.
he's been a big
Like
part
I've
of the God's
interacted
Not
with
Dead
him.
movies. Yeah,
Love it. Yes, he is. So great man. And that's why I bought it. It really wasn't very good,
just to
but you know,
support him. Yeah.
just to support him. But anyway, I'm going to look that up while you were finishing your thought. I want to find out what this guy's name is because he's worth
Yeah.
checking out.
So while you're looking that up, I would just say that it's been a topic that I have really just. I
I
can't say
would
that I
agree that it's come
despise
up
him.
for me this week often also.
Yeah,
Whatever
it's not a
that's worth.
topic that I've despised or run from. It's just not something that I've enjoyed. I talked through the Book of Revelation once, which subsequently you got to touch at least a little bit of Daniel while you're teaching through Revelation, if you're going to do any kind of justice to the book.
Yes.
And I didn't enjoy it. You know, the weirdos come out of the woodwork when you start doing the series in Revelation. They bring their ammo cans and their crayon charts. You know, I had a Foursquare
It's
Bible
so
College
true.
professor that, we can never know the day or the hour, but I can tell you the month and the year. And I'm like, no, man, check,
And who
bing,
cares? Yeah.
and I think you can make a really decent argument for the Feast of Trumpets is the only feast that has not been represented in the life of Jesus, and that, and so if you make it through September, you're probably you got another year ahead of you, because that's when the Feast of Trumpets is. Okay, I got it, I understand. But how egotistical, and he had written the textbook, and he was just an egomaniac. But anyway, I've never enjoyed it. I've never felt drawn to eschatology or end times theology, um, uh, until the last 3 weeks to a month. And I
Mm.
this the when Tommy Evans teaches on, and Tommy Evans is a pre-tribber. I'm not a pre-tribber. He's a pre-tribber. He taught on Driscoll's channel and did a biblical prophecy of the end times breakdown. It's a phenomenal sermon. You should definitely go check it out.
Mhm.
I would say that before that message, I was already migrating toward looking into prophecy again and thinking about eschatology. And then bang, that sermon came out, and I remember watching the whole thing like twice through at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was just
Yeah.
glued to the television. I mean, I mean, he referenced a book called Eye to Eye, which was written by a rabbi, talking about every time the United States steps away from Israel, takes a step, whether we have encouraged to, forfeit the Gaza Strip. He was talking about how this rabbi was talking about that within 7 days of the United States forcing Israel to relinquish the Gaza Strip, Hurricane Katrina smashed the southern coast of America. We were actively,
Dangerous territory.
we were actively going against Israel inside of a
Theologically dangerous
treaty.
territory. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we were actively going against
Enough to
Israel,
make you go,
in a
though.
treaty situation, and there was a 250-mile tornado across the guts of Oklahoma and Missouri, and it was the longest tornado in U.S. history, and it was within 72 hours of us forcing a really terrible treaty on behalf of Israel.
Yeah.
There's been some notable moments. I think Hurricane Ian. You could go back to that and take a look at some stuff. And this rabbi does a really brutal look at
He
every time
connects
we
some
step
dots.
away. Yeah. So I just say all of that. And you've got wars and rumors of wars. I'm really embarrassed to admit that I never paid attention to the fact that Moscow is almost a perfect straight line north of Jerusalem. I had no idea that that was the case. But look at a globe, and it's the
Globe,
truth.
not a map.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
a map. Yeah, and look at a globe, and it's and it's absolutely 100% straight north. And there are some stuff. There's some big stuff about the kingdoms of the north. And so anyway, we can do a whole special
Kingdoms of
episode
the
on the
North just
biblical.
came up heavily last night. Yeah, no, Kingdoms of the North. So, if you look into, I just had it. Let me find it. Hold on. Gene Kim, Dr. Gene Kim.
Okay,
And a lot of his stuff, I don't know if it's his channel or if it's a church that features him a lot, because I don't get the
okay,
impression that he's Australian. But Open Bible Baptist Church is the YouTube channel, and it is some sort of a church in Australia.
okay.
But anyway, so I've seen about 4 of his videos, and they're about an hour to an hour and a half long a piece. Um, and I'm not sitting there pouring through the context of every verse that he gives, right? I haven't
Right.
fact checked him as a pastor. With that said, I'm not exactly new to the scripture or to these studies, and the majority is not popping out as wrong. Like, I'm not getting red flags, and nor am I getting Holy Spirit red flag. Quite the opposite. I'm getting more
Okay.
Holy Spirit discernment saying, pay attention to this.
Right.
So weird to me that again, A lot of the stuff that you were talking, so you and I just got hit with about the same stuff, and it sounds like on the exact same days.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
also at like 2 a.m. your time would have been about my time. That
Yeah.
like so at the exact same second, you and I were enthralled by the same types of videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
now I wish I had like just sent it to you because you were awake. But anyway, so with that said, when you start to have two or more pastors having a Holy Spirit moment where something has been put on our mind and we start to chew through it. And when we start to, I'm sure you did the same thing I did, start to just be in prayer about it
Yeah.
as we go about our day, start letting God speak to our hearts about it. Well, then our suggestion to you would be that maybe this is something you should start chewing on and looking at also. I don't
Yeah.
know why yet.
Right.
So I'm not making a declarative statement saying you better start studying this because it's going to really, really matter, or
Right.
we're going to miss something, or it's very important for prepping. Again, like I've said a couple times already, this episode, um, pre-trib, post-trib, those things really only matter so much. The reality is prepare for the worst, no matter what.
Right.
And I'm going to use the exact same platitude that we talked about last week, saying, when you pray for someone in healing, we always know that at the worst, they'll be healed after death, right? Well,
Correct.
same thing for us. If we prepare for the worst and then are not here to use any of that, it's an opportunity for someone to avoid taking the mark of the beast and have an opportunity to be saved because of our preps. So,
Yeah.
if for no other reason than that, that should be enough. And that's been on my heart for decades, which is to prepare a safe place for those escaping the wrath of evil, whether it's
Absolutely.
present day, as in not the apocalypse, not the end of days, or all the way to the other extreme of a
Yeah.
post-rapture tribulation, where once they take the mark of the beast, that's it.
Yeah.
It's over.
So I've been saying Tommy Evans, and it's not Tommy Evans. He's a Christian music artist. Jimmy Evans, prophetic
Jimmy,
timeline of the end. Jimmy
I
Evans.
can
You can
see it
find it
now.
on
Jimmy,
the Real Faith. And evidently, John Lovell's got a new video today. That looks good. How to be brave. I'm down with that. I'm a big fan of the John
yeah,
Lovell
it
show.
does.
But
He's been putting some good stuff out. I didn't watch his EDC because it just looked like a shill for his stuff. But he,
It's funny the comment. You'll like this. You'll because he does this. You know how he's always really silly. Like he's really silly.
yeah,
So he stands
yeah.
up and he shows off. He's showing off his holster on his pants, and he's like, "And today's episode is brought to you by jeans. I wear them every day." And I was like, "You're just a shill for big denim." Was the call.
He is also very active with a small following on Twitter. You need to get onto Twitter because
I
again,
gotta
I've
get on.
texted
I
back and
gotta
forth
get
with
onto
him on
Twitter.
Twitter multiple times because if their following is only, less than 1,000 people, then they tend to be very interactive.
Well,
Um,
he said the other day, I think it was even on the EDC episode where he said,
yep.
"Look, I have a staff that runs my YouTube page. I have a staff that runs my social media. I am actually the guy that runs Twitter. Like I have." He's like, "I don't have Facebook, Instagram on my
Oh, he's
phone."
fun to talk back and forth with on Twitter. Yeah.
He's like that. He goes, "If you're interacting with someone on Twitter, it's me." He's like, I run my own Twitter, so I'm looking forward to it. I need to do it.
Twitter is the new public square, and you know me, I kick and scream for years and years and years. Instagram was it for a while, and in some ways still is. Facebook is nothing anymore. It's a battleground.
Right.
It's not even a good business tool anymore. But you know,
Go woke,
I,
go
I
broke.
actually use it to cost them money. So when if you remember old bulletin boards, like message boards and that whole software, it was kind of big in the 2000s, right? Everybody was
Yeah.
on a group or a message or whatever. Well, so a lot of my gun forums are still like that. I put all my pictures of guns and things like that on Facebook and I set the privacy to only me. So nobody ever sees them to flag them on Facebook. And then I use that as the server to host the photo and I post the code to the message boards because I don't pay for server space anymore for images. And, I love that I'm kind of like sticking it to the man that Facebook pays to host all my photos from my gun boards.
So it's my disease, man. It's my disease. Stick it to the maniosis. That's me. I got it, dude.
Stick it
I
to
caught
the
it.
else. Love it. And
I
I could
caught
care
the
less.
disease.
Someday I've been deleted so many times. But they never. I don't know if there's just something about like that original group of people from 2006, right? When
Right.
Facebook was still not even open to the masses yet. That's where my one profile is from. Like they'll put me in jail for forever, but they'll never delete me.
Okay, so I got to change gears just a little bit. We're 41 minutes in. We've got
Oh
to
my.
talk about Nashville. We've got to
What are
talk
we
about
talking about?
Nashville.
I love
Um,
the governor of that state. Did you see his statement?
no, tell me
Um,
about it.
so he came out with a statement, and I just it's one of those where you let it go while I was making coffee. And I wish I could find his name. Oh, here's his name. So Governor Bill Lee, and
Oh yeah.
apparently he has some personal ties to
Okay.
the substitute teacher that was shot is a close
Okay.
personal friend of his family, as in she was supposed to go over for dinner. So really close to home for him. And he released a statement like the following morning, and it is a very biblical, God forward, unabashed, unashamed, but not incorrect at all, a public statement. It's a
Yeah.
statement of compassion. It's not calling for hatred, but it is calling for accountability. It is not being ashamed. I love seeing public officials and public officers not be afraid to be Christians in public.
Right.
There's no reason not to be.
Right.
There's zero. So we have played that game and we have cowtailed for too long.
Yes.
The results are what we're getting.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
in the name of compromise, we have allowed these delusions to continue far too far. So far that because this mental illness, and again, I'm not one of those that says, I don't believe in red flag laws. We do not need um, any change in the way our firearms laws are around mental illness. It is already illegal for her to have made those purchases. She lied
Yes, she
to
did.
purchase those firearms. So understand that. I'm sick and tired of people saying, well, if we had just, not let the mentally ill get guns, well, she lied to do it.
She lied. Yeah. Exactly.
She not only
Well,
did she lie, but her physician giving her transition drugs failed, had an
failed.
obligation, did not
Yeah.
do their duty because
Absolutely.
they're evil. But
Well,
anyway, so yeah, uh,
let me say this. Kudos
unpack some more.
to the Nashville PD. Kudos,
Yeah,
Officer
13-minute response
Rex.
time.
Under 2 minutes, man. They were
And I don't know
like
about you, but I saw
forced to threat,
dozens of officers. Dozens of
forced to
officers.
threat.
So I probably saw what, 3 or 4 cams? Did you probably about the
Yes.
same, right? And
Yep.
some surveillance footage.
Yep.
Um, I it wasn't tactically perfect.
No.
Um, some of the room
No.
clearing was good, some of it was not good. There was holes. They definitely like
Saw
if it had been, for
saw them flag
instance,
each
like
other a few times,
if
like
it had
bad
been
flags.
2 trained military guys, right, in opposition, it would have been heavy losses.
Right. But it wasn't, and
But
thank God it
but
wasn't.
it wasn't.
And so we saw an incredible response. I mean, when you juxtaposition it with Uvalde, where you've just got 30 cops stacked up in a hallway with their thumbs up their asses doing nothing,
Yeah.
versus we're
Well,
going to
what they
business.
were doing was stopping good people from doing
Forced
something.
to threat, forced to threat. Yeah. And so Nashville, you just see that forced to threat. Where's the threat? They hear the gunshots, they engage the threat. Two
Yep.
officers empty just mag dump this lady.
I disagree about the mag dump interpretation. They fired rounds till she stopped moving. There was a pause before the
Yeah.
second one engaged. What I saw in the unblurred video was
Oh, it was.
her
I don't mean I
her
don't mean mag dump in a disrespectful term. I think they did it exactly the way we're supposed to do it.
yeah.
I was more
I mean,
thinking of the
he didn't
handgun.
empty a mag. And the carbine guy was what, 3 rounds, 2 rounds?
3 rounds, 3 rounds. Yeah, he did a great job.
I love. I don't know if you noticed, but click to safety and close that cover. Oh, I loved
yeah.
it. That
Well,
like
did you notice that most of his body cam footage was right here on his
yeah,
hand, and
yeah.
he had his thumb on that safety switch, and he had his
That's how
finger
you're supposed to
indexed
do it.
perfectly.
That is
The
correct
and that
tactic. How
nice
you handle a
C
carbine.
that nice
C
C
clamp.
grip, C
Yep.
clamp on that, on that gun. So
Yeah.
I would just
No, that was
say
good.
kudos to the Nashville PD. I did a little
Good.
breakdown last night with a
Did you?
buddy who's like he is one of Colorado's foremost active shooter trainers. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't have permission. He's going to be at a FBI shooting school, down in Georgia in just a few days.
Well,
He
pray
goes
he
a couple
doesn't
of
get
times.
infected by evil.
Nah, there's
Just being
no
in the room.
chance,
Well,
no
good. That he'll
chance
make
of this
friends
guy.
with being around. That's the best
Yeah,
thing about when you're around evil. They all get
yeah,
sick.
yeah. This guy, yeah, that's exactly right. And so anyway, and he just was like, man, thumbs up. Like in the heat of the
Yeah.
moment, there's
Uh,
going to be bops and
lots of
borbles.
officers. This,
There's going to
but the
be
whole,
stuff.
like you said, her direct fire when she started engaging against officers in the building and started shooting
Yeah,
back out the window again. So two
yeah,
female officers got their whole car just got shot to hell.
yeah,
They
yeah,
both survived, no hits even, because
yeah.
she was bad at putting rounds on target.
Right.
Um, all the officers instantly dropped and ran to the gunfire. Perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. You
Yep.
stop doing the
Now,
room by room at that point and you
now
engage the threat,
the only problem that I have with
which
any
one?
of what the Nashville PD did, and I think Johnny B did a great video yesterday. Basically, like I think it's called "Something Smells Fishy." And I will say
Is
that
it because
the
everything was
whole
released so
situation,
quick? Or are we talking about the shoot?
they released the footage of the weapons so fast. It felt very political, especially considering the House was doing hearings to revoke the ATF's erroneous pistol brace ban, and
And
then
one of the
boom, we've got a
firearms used
shooting.
had a pistol
And
brace on it.
I'm pretty sure we called it a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure we called it a few weeks ago that we would
Yeah,
probably see an active shooter that involved a pistol brace. Um,
guaranteed.
uh, and I think we said it a few weeks
Questions,
ago.
the same questions as the other ones. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Same thing.
Right,
Where did the money come?
right, right.
This
So,
this this kid that lived at home and had no money
well,
had these
she was
firearms that
28,
were
but
not
okay.
cheap. Well, but she lived at home
Hmm.
and claimed to not have money.
Right,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
I'm just saying
So, I mean, I gotta
a
say,
little too much
and
funding and enabling.
maybe this is
I
what
flat
finally
out
gets us
will
kicked off
will
of
say
YouTube. But I would say
either
there's a Manchurian
CIA
candidate
or
situation.
FBI, one or both, funded fully or partially, and possibly even fingered or pushed or coached. The more we go back, the more we find out. In fact, Tim Kennedy, I know you don't love him, but Tim Kennedy is finally opening his eyes a bit more. And he kind of called out the same thing today, like a history of these things. He's like, when we find out that, JFK and this and that, and, doing the whole line all the way up to today or
Yeah,
yesterday or whatever it was, um, we continue to find that our own federal unelected employees are working against us, funding, training, weaponizing in multiple ways these mass shootings against the citizenry. And they're done with a purpose of driving legislation to unarm all of us because
yeah.
we are much easier to control when we are unarmed.
Yeah,
And they
I,
love
100%.
focusing their attention on. I mean, this whole like trans community, whatever that it may or may not even exist. I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
it's just like the whole Fed boy thing. They're probably half fed plants. And Mr. Dress Stealer, the baggage thief, because they're all been appointed into positions of power.
yeah,
Once
exactly.
again,
They're again not hiring the best person for the job, but hiring the person that fits the agenda the best.
the
And so
most
you've got
flamboyantly useful
most flamboyantly
degenerate.
useful. That's exactly right. And so, um, I think that inside of these conversations, we can Monday morning quarterback and we can pick apart the system and we can do the
The
whole thing.
answer,
Ultimately,
yeah, and we're not saying that the answer is to go out and attack people because of whatever sin they're struggling with. That's not
oh
the right
no,
course
yeah,
either.
this is
Um,
not a call to violence in
this
any
is
way,
not a
shape, or
tit
form.
for a tat. Refuse to acknowledge that one, it's a war and it's against us, but that doesn't mean we fight back in the same way. Go to who's
But
really pulling the strings.
but it
Refuse to
is
compromise. Don't be the
it is a
lukewarm that enables
reminder.
this.
It is a reminder of the rules of stupid. Don't go stupid places with stupid people at stupid times. And right now, because this incredibly militant, incredibly reactionary, I think they've got an organization now called TRAN, which is Trans Reactionary Action Network, or
Okay.
Retaliation, Trans Retaliation
Retaliation. Yep.
Action Network.
Okay.
They've got their
I've seen
own
some pretty
brand of.
awful videos of some public statements about this. The
Oh
children
yeah,
deserved
yeah.
it. This is what the
Oh,
Christians had coming to them. Some awful things.
now, so I would just say, reminder of the rules of stupid. They're calling for violent
Violent.
action this weekend.
Yeah.
Don't be anywhere near DC. Don't be anywhere
Yeah.
near big cities
Yeah.
this weekend. It's especially going to be a bad time to go do don't
So
get your Costco run done today or tomorrow.
yeah, with all that to be said, though, if you find yourself in the middle of it, absolutely defend yourself.
Defend
Just
yourself.
understand there's a cost, and it's going to be high, and it's going to
Exactly.
be disproportionately towards you.
And you might
So
want to read the Boyd Craven books again, and think about your
right,
think about having some cameras in your car, and up that auto upload to the cloud, and a few things like that.
yeah, auto upload to your lawyer. I definitely wouldn't stick
Audio
around.
auto up. Boy, that's for
I
sure.
personally would not stick around.
Now there's
I'd
a
take my
there's a
chances with
component.
leaving the scene of the crime thing. I'll take my chances with that, and let
I'll
my
drive
own
straight to her.
video.
I would drive straight to a police station and turn myself over.
Depends. It
Like
depends. You need to know your police station, and
I
more
guess that's
important
true.
than knowing your police station is knowing your DA,
That's exactly right.
knowing your
Boy, that's
local
for sure.
prosecutor, because that's where we've really lost it. Is the
Now you
prosecutors.
Now, there's a piece of this Nashville situation that very, very few people are talking about,
Okay.
it hit me really, really hard.
Yeah.
So the 9-year-old little blonde girl that was killed,
The pastor's daughter.
that is the pastor's daughter. The pastor had been ministering to this lady, had been meeting with this lady and trying to love and care for her in the name of Jesus.
As a former
And
student,
as a former student of the Covenant School and of the community, he
it's
had been
not been
trying.
acknowledged, but there's evidence suggesting that the mother was still attending the church, or active at least in the circle.
Very strong possibility. Now, there's two pieces that I want to highlight connected to this. One,
Okay.
they're not releasing the manifesto. They
They're
probably
not.
won't release the
Probably
manifesto.
won't. We'll get it
But
eventually.
the component that we did get to hear about was that she had two targets. She
Right.
opted for this target because the other one was too secure. Okay,
We
I
don't
think
know that
one,
the other target was a school.
we don't know we don't even
The
know
other
what the other
target
target
could have
was.
been the offices, or maybe the workplace of, whatever.
Right,
Again,
right.
this was a targeted hit with intended collateral damage. She did this, by all indications, as a suicide by cop. I'm
100%.
gonna hurt some people, and then it's the whole plan all along was suicide by cop. She fully
Agreed.
intended to die. She
So
just wanted to cause horrible, evil damage in the meantime.
so number one, we've got to start screaming to harden our schools and our churches, like that.
What would you have done
Listen,
different in that? I mean, the only thing else you could have done, that she shot her way in. It wasn't an unlocked door. It wasn't like a, other thing. She shot through multiple plate glass doors.
well, I think that there.
She
I think if you're a
explosively breached.
school, if you're a school, you need to have armed response on campus. Like whether you
Agreed.
have an actual school
Agreed.
resource officer or you have,
Your
I
church,
think we
my
need to
church, both
begin
of our churches, we had armed
right.
response.
We had armed
Even when
response
there was
on
daycare.
campus
Yep,
all the
on
time.
campus.
If the building was open, we had an armed response in the building if the building was
If you
open.
and I could do it in Oregon, you could do it anywhere.
That's exactly right. So I think that we must to start demanding school marshals, just like air marshals, specially trained people.
I
I don't think
don't
we need
like
a new
them being
branch. We
federal.
don't. We don't need a new federal branch of law enforcement embedded in our schools, but the concept
No.
of you have
Let's
no idea who's on that flight with you. You don't know whether there's an air marshal on the flight or not. Um, and I think that you should not know whether there's a school marshal on campus or not. But I think that there should be a minimum of 5 trained school marshals, minimum, starting out with a team of 5
like per district.
per
Yeah,
district, okay, and I'd like to see it be per school because each district has multiple schools, but that means a vetting process. You don't want some crusty, bitter, nasty asshole PE teacher that just likes to have power. You don't want to just hand him a gun because no, you need to vet them. You need to there needs to be a process. They need to get shipped off to Thunder Ranch, or wherever you want to send them to get
or
trained. I don't
somewhere.
care if it's Thunder Ranch. I'm biased. I like Thunder Ranch. They need to go get some real training, competency, and nobody ever needs to know that there's a weapon in that classroom. But that the only other people in the building who know who the school marshals are the school marshals. Okay, and I think that's step number
That's not
one.
a bad
Okay,
idea. Yeah. I mean, a couple per school, like if for that concept, if you treat it like, um, well, if we go with the same example of the air marshal, well, in the airlines, the pilots have had opportunity to volunteer to be a part
yes,
of the. I don't know what the program's called, but it's basically armed pilot program. And they do some federal training. They approve the
yep,
firearms. They learn, how to do this safely. And you never know, but a significant portion, at least prior to China flu, a significant portion of pilots were are armed. Same concept. So if you did something similar to like what you're saying and just maybe apply it to the teachers. I mean, we've been saying this for years and years and years. And I know there are some teachers that carry regardless, but under threat of losing their job. And I've had to carry at jobs that I knew that, the owner, the manager, they knew I was carrying, but there was in some cases unspoken, but most of the time very spoken, that if you end up having to utilize that firearm, um, you're on your own. Not that, although the one time at the one place that I did work where I did have to use a firearm, actually I shouldn't even say that because I've done it like 3 times. Uh, I'm like, "Ugh." But your favorite F word didn't hang me out to dry, so I survived that one. As a pastor, I've cleared leather multiple times. Um,
let me be clear. That is not my favorite F word. Foursquare is not my
it's
favorite F word. It's just an F
okay.
word.
It's an F word. Well, and they've done some good things the last couple of weeks, so we have to
Have they?
applaud when good things happen. Yes, some good fix the things, and we've had some rumors that finally got squashed appropriately, which made me very
We can
happy.
we should talk about that off camera because I have been
We
so
will.
detached from them that I don't give two shits
I
about
know.
what they're doing. So
Yeah, cabinet's been
I'd love to hear
meeting,
good news.
but back to again, and then yeah, another time I was had an attempted robbery at a place I was working and cleared leather to save my own life. Really didn't care about the property, um, but I was let go the next morning. So because I refused to get shot and be a victim, but
Right.
that was the understanding. It was, we're not going to do anything to you. You're just not going to work here anymore. Fine. So we knew how that was going to go down. But that's the threat. So there are teachers that are doing that, and then in
Right.
places like Oregon and Washington, when they're doing this, the threat is worse than that.
Yeah.
It's not just you're going to lose your job; it's you're never going to work as a teacher anywhere again. Not only that, we're probably going to charge you with a felony and ruin your life,
Right.
put you on some registry,
Correct.
and you'll lose your gun rights. Like you really got to hide it and work in a place like that.
Oh yeah.
So don't work in places like that. But all that to
Don't
say,
don't.
I think again, now is the time to scream from the rafters that teachers who are capable of and want to
Yeah.
be armed should be enabled with training.
No teacher should ever be forced to do something that they don't want to do.
Nope. Well,
But may
other
God
than
have
be safe
mercy.
for kids and a couple things.
But may God have mercy on their souls if they have the opportunity and refuse and end up kids die because they would not take the time to get trained and be self-sufficient.
God may have mercy on your soul, but I won't.
That's there you go. That's exactly right. So, but the other
Just like the
component,
cops who won't run in and do their job. If you're a
right.
teacher who refuses to do your job, then stop being a teacher.
The other component of this that
Yeah.
going back to the fact that this little girl was the pastor's daughter.
Yeah.
You know that a few years ago, I had a very intense situation where I got a phone call from the FBI, the
We've had
sheriff's department, the
active
state
threats
police,
against
and we
New
had a
York. Yeah.
real active threat where basically we spent about a
And we're
year at
uh, around some end time theology.
right around
He
some end
was just
times
angry at
theology.
how you interpreted that.
That's
It was
true.
one of
You're right.
that's
and
anyway.
uh and so we had a guy that was coming to church. He was, you could smell the weird on him. You knew he was weird.
Yeah.
Didn't know how weird he was, until later on, and then I figured out how weird he was. And we had a really big blow up in the church, and then we had another really big blow up in the grocery store. and
So
um a-
we should pause and explain smell the weird, because we're not talking about you smell the alcohol or blah blah blah. It's not a physical thing. This is a Holy Spirit discernment.
it's a
When
holy
the Holy
Holy
Spirit
Spirit.
gets a hold of you and says something's off with that guy, pay attention.
Right.
That's what we're talking about by smell the
That's
weird.
exactly
But
right.
yeah,
That's exactly right. So I would say, being thoroughly careful around this person, because of two really ugly situations in the church and the grocery store, we were
and
already
real
we were
real stated threats, and he tried to get you
real stated.
fired. Like he called, went
Oh yeah.
around multiple
Oh
levels
yeah.
of management levels to try
Oh
to
yeah.
get you fired. He tried to plant evidence against you.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
on top of that, again, it's so bad that the FBI
Almost
got
like
in
a
contact
Fed.
with you.
Almost like a Fed. Like he was, sorry.
Maybe he was
Um
a friend. He might have
Maybe he
been. I
was
mean,
a
he does
Fed. I
fit
don't know.
the MO. He might have been a contractor.
Well, I
I
got a
don't. You'll have
warning
to ask Kevin
call.
Heifer.
I got a call from the FBI, state
Yeah,
police, the sheriff's office, and the PD all on the same day, and they were like, and what had happened was they took him in on another problem. He had
yeah.
shown up to the courthouse with a gun, and he was detained, he was arrested, and and basically made some really big statements about, look, the DA is evil and the parole and probation guy is evil. The DA actually was evil back then.
I was gonna say
Um,
that could
uh,
have been true.
that was actually correct. Parole and probation guy was a Jesus guy. The sheriff was a Jesus
Okay,
guy.
that's good.
Like there was a bunch of the judge was a Jesus guy. Like all those but he basically made a list. DA, judge, parole and probation, sheriff. These guys are evil, but
He
they're
had a
all
Happy
under the
Gilmore
spell
lipstick list.
of the puppet master, and the puppet master is that preacher down the road. And if I can stop that preacher, all of these people will be released from the evil. So I'm going to stop that. He just kept saying, I have to stop that preacher, in reference to me. Of course, he was
Right.
referencing
But
my
I
name.
love how they didn't actually like act on or hold him or prosecute him for any of these real threats. They
No,
let him go and then just say, "Oh, by the way, we let this guy go, so you
right.
should probably,
Yeah,
you know."
he's in the wind. We had about a 3 month window in the year that we spent at level 11 security threat.
Yeah.
That he was in the mental hospital in Salem, Oregon. And so, for 3 months we kind of were able to take a breath and go, oh man, let's take a breath here. But I guess I bring it up. I only share it because we put in some real security, you know, protocols for our church. That we had
Right.
guys sitting in the lobby all the time. We had you know armed people all over the church on Sunday. Of course, we had cops all over that church. Was our a part of our congregation. But I just say this: my heart bleeds for that pastor, and his family. Um, the loss of that little
Right.
girl could have very easily been the loss of my son. I could have been the one on the news.
Give
And
credit where credit is due. Their procedures and their existing security at whatever level it was worked.
yeah,
It worked. It
yeah,
could have been better, but it was far better. This would have gone down so different in so many other. A public school would have been way worse.
so much worse.
Most
Yeah,
public
the you
schools
know,
do the absolute worst things. It's like they're trying to actually make their chances worse.
well,
So
and kudos to the
they did
teachers
so
who
many
thought on
good
their
things.
feet.
Yeah,
Kudos to the teachers that were creative in their solution and their problem solving skills rather than taking their kids back into a building to go into their standardized lockdown procedures. They got the hell out of there. They took
West
off in a
Iowa. Yep.
they took off into a neighborhood. Shoot, they took a bunch of kids took shelter in Sabrina the Teenage Witch's house. You know, I mean, whatever her name, I can't remember the actress.
Uh,
Praise,
I forgot too. Yeah, I read that story. Good for
you
her.
know,
Um,
praise God for people that were willing to open their homes and go, yeah, get your
like she
kids in here.
says,
Let's
they left what other state they used to live in because of the kids having like an active shooting at their school, and so then they moved there. And she's like, we can't escape it, you know.
Yeah, and there was another mom out front, you know, that had been her they had her and her son had survived the school shooting. Of course, she's a leftist and wants all the guns taken away, but I mean,
Yeah,
my heart bleeds for
Stephen
her
Chris
that she's been
Chapman
in
was associated there as well. Had some personal ties there.
uh
A lot of
yeah.
so this one rang home for a lot of people, and it should ring home for all of us in that you know, if you start connecting the dots on who these active shooters are and where they're getting their weapons and what their manifesto is, they're all either being trained, funded, armed, instigated, set off, released, however you want to put it, or all of them
Yeah.
by our own federal government. And so
Well,
act
and so
accordingly,
I guess in
get ready
wrapping up
for
the
more of
show,
this. Yeah, we need to
yeah.
because my computer's gonna die.
In wrapping up the show, what can you do to be, to be, somewhat
Homeschool
ready?
your kids.
Well, there's homeschool your kids. That's true. We
But you
have
got
homeschooled our
kids.
son. We have homeschooled our son. We're not currently. So, so how do you
Well,
do?
you can train your children depending on their age in actual proper active shooter
Yes,
procedures. There are things that
right.
can be done. You
Absolutely.
can send your child to school with a door wedge.
Right.
There are some things legal for them to have that can be used
Right.
as defensive positions.
So
You absolutely can
you
put
can't
armor in
send
your
your
book.
kid to school with that, but
I did.
you can put a real solid
I sent my high
uh
schooler with one of these, but yeah,
I mean, you know, does your kid know how to use a tourniquet, and is there one in his backpack? Like
yeah. You need
is there
two
an
chest
Israeli
seals
is
tourniquet and an Israeli style pressure bandage. And if you
so
can,
so
some CPAP gauze. There you go.
so this is at minimum in every backpack that we own. Okay, this is not even a
And
fully
you can train this
functional.
with a grapefruit.
Right. This is not even a fully functional IFAC kit, but these
That's
two
what you need
things
for
alone,
trauma stop.
these two things alone will save a person's life. Okay, and so
My child can be trained to do those properly.
these exist, and these are advanced
You're
life-saving
holding
tech.
40 bucks.
These are advanced life-saving tactics that can be taught to anybody from the age of 9, 10 up. Okay,
In 15
anybody
minutes.
can be taught anybody can be taught to put a tourniquet on. You can make a game of it. It's not a big deal. I'll say this.
Practice on the neck.
The thing that pisses me off right now, and what's going to have me in front of my school board very soon, is I have this kit in my son's backpack. My son has a bulletproof level 3
Got a plate.
soft armor in his backpack. And right now, my kid's not allowed to take his backpack to class. They have to take these dumb little drawstring satchels, which you could absolutely hide one of these in a binder, and it would be super duper easy. But this stuff's too bulky for the backpack. So For the satchel. So what's going to get me in front of my school board in the very near future is the fact that the security theater has to stop, and
Yeah.
stop making my kid unsafe because you're
People who are
afraid.
incapable of they're unqualified and not capable of making the correct decisions are making
Correct.
bad decisions for you.
Correct. That's exactly right. I think reactionary tactics are almost always bad. So people who are just afraid that make policy, that's gonna be no good. But guys, put them in your kid's backpack. Okay, put them in your
Well,
kid's
send them
backpack.
anyway. That's the thing. Send it anyway. Make them kick your kid out for having an emergency medical kit. So you
Oh
can
no,
stand in front of the school board and say, I apparently it's against the school rules for my child to have an emergency medical kit. So
that's
just
exactly
wondering
right.
why you hate children so much.
That's
Why do you
exactly
hate
right.
children? Why are you here hating children? So I mean,
Yep.
those decisions for me were made a long time ago. I'm done playing that game with these. We're not going to send a second one to take a chance on.
Yeah.
We go back and forth on that. I get it. Um, these things are going to continue to happen. This
Absolutely.
is
They
not
are.
an isolated event. You can expect in uh, possibly this weekend or tomorrow, we're going to see violence from this group,
Yes.
the same group,
Yes.
this group
Yep.
of totally mentally ill people, and then it is going to continue. We're going to see assault weapon attacks happen again. I will say it now. Less than 2 weeks, there will be another mass shooting. Um,
Yep.
Probably a pistol brace, definitely an AR-15. It's
And I'm just gonna
going to
say,
because they
and I'm gonna
want to
say
ban
this,
these
and it's
things,
gonna
and they're just going to keep doing it.
it's gonna piss people off, but it's all contrived, folks. It's all contrived.
It is. Yes.
I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not taking
Well,
the
this
Alex
one did
Jones
not
tack that
get
it's
the
fake.
desired the
It's
next they didn't get enough collateral damage on this one. There weren't enough
right,
innocent kids killed, so they're gonna
right.
do this again. This
It's
wasn't good
it's
enough.
not it's not that I'm saying that this is fake. I'm saying it's contrived. It actually happened. There are children dead. There are adults dead. That's the reality of it. But I'm just saying that somehow there's something
They
that the
coach and
undertow.
influence the situation. There's lots of things you can do to influence people to do bad things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly right. Hey, listen,
let's
guys.
be positive influencers to do good things. And the best thing we can tell you is one, be prepared with the proper medical trauma and be prepared to defend yourself and your kids. And don't be afraid to pull your kids out of school.
Absolutely,
Pull them out.
absolutely.
It's not that hard to homeschool.
And on that note, you guys, thanks for so much for hanging out with us. I know we're a little over our time this week.
Yeah.
That's okay. We had a good episode. Phil, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you so much. Everybody out there, we love you.
Live
Get
next week.
prepped. Yep, yep.
Live next week.
Live
Live
next
next
week.
week. All right.
Peace.
We're out.